In 1881, the Canadian Pacific Railway was founded in order to build a rail line across Canada, uniting east and west. The last spike was driven in 1885 in British Columbia. In that province, the main was built about 125 miles, or 200 kilometers, north of the United States border for much of its distance. It turned to follow the Fraser River as it continued south toward Vancouver. The line had avoided the mountainous interior of British Columbia, which was exceptionally difficult terrain, and would have required the crossing of multiple mountain ranges. In the early 1900s, the very mountains that had made it difficult were producing ore, and the Maine was nowhere near the mines. James J. Hill saw an opportunity. In 1906, he began building the Vancouver, Victoria, and Eastern Railway, or the VV&E, in southwestern British Columbia under Great Northern ownership. The line was to serve the mines and would take away potential business from the Canadian Pacific. In response, the CPR began construction of the Kettle Valley Railway in 1910, hoping to keep the mining profits within Canada. The Canadian Pacific purchased steamships that operated passenger service on Okanagan Lake, giving passengers the ability to travel via ship and rail. Once good highways were constructed in the area, the railroad lost much of its passenger traffic. The CP eventually integrated the Kettle Valley line into its own network as the Kettle Valley Division. The Kettle Valley Model Railway Club is a committee of the Ss Sycamore Heritage Society and has built an HO-scale layout of the KVR's line inside the ship, which is now a museum on the shores of Okanagan Lake in Penticton, British Columbia. The layout is 14 by 46 feet, or about 4 by 14 meters, built on the cargo deck in the center of the ship. Members model the whole line from the small town of Midway in the east all the way to Hope, BC in the west. It's based loosely in the 50s, and they've included many of the railroad's important features along the way. There was, of course, the need to compress the route in order to fit the space. Layout construction on the KVR model began in 1989. The benchwork is a combination of plywood base and open grid construction. The original club members used chicken wire covered with plaster hardshell as the scenery base in most areas, which has now been found to interfere with the Wi-Fi reception, and it will eventually all be replaced with a cardboard webbing structure underneath the plaster instead. They added plaster rocks, a variety of commercial and handmade trees, which are mostly conifers, and scratch-built many of the important trestles and structures that were on the KVR route. The model includes the McCulloch Station, named after the railway's chief engineer, Andrew McCulloch. The club constructed a stretched helix where the line drops in elevation from Myra Canyon through Chute Lake and Arawana before arriving at Penticton on Okanagan Lake. The actual Myra Canyon is at an elevation of about 4,000 feet, and the line drops to about 1,000 at Penticton, so it required a steep descent. The helix allows for that descent and is scenic as a mountain. The grade on the layout is 2.2% on both sides, descending into Penticton and then climbing the mountains on the opposite side, as the KVR line continues west. The layout has an area in the center from which members can operate. The entire run is scenic, at a height that precludes sight of the central area, so visitors can walk the length of the mountain range on either side and enjoy the scenes along the way. At the lake, where the scenery is lower, a painted backdrop blocks the view into the operating area. Visitors can walk from Midway to Penticton, and then on the other side they can view the line as it continues from Penticton to Hope. The town of Penticton was the central hub for the CPR, and since the layout is also located there, it has a prominent place on the model. It's the lowest part of the route and includes a portion of the city and some of the specific structures that were an important part of the railroad. The late Lou Brooke, who was a club member when layout construction was begun, scratch-built the CPR's Incola Hotel, which sits near the lake. The prototypical hotel was built in 1914 and was torn down by the city in 1981. A model of the Ss Sicamore sits at the dock, and the Naramata tugboat can be seen approaching Okanagan Beach. Both ships were built by the late Frank Fraser and current and longtime member Brett Zayats. Club Committee Chairperson Jim Rice is adding automated features that will add interest for museum visitors. The Kettle Valley Model Railway is an interesting layout where you can enjoy learning a bit of history about Canada's railroads and see the difficult landscape they had to build over to serve the mines. The layout is just part of the larger experience of a tour of the Ss Sycamore, which is located on Okanagan Beach in Penticton.
We offer the complete tour of this layout and many more on DVD video.
Trackside model railroading, where the hobby comes to life.